นะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะวันนี้วันพระค่ะวันพระเล็กเขาเรียกว่า quarter moon quarter moon ก็คือพระจันทร์อยู่ในตำแหน่งที่เศษ1/4คือไม่ใช่ full moon ไม่ใช่ dark moon แต่เป็น quarter moon วันที่13ค่ะเป็นวันที่13กุมภาพันธ์2566 we are at the quarter moon of February 2023. Today I would like to speak about my teacher, Most Venerable Master Hsing Yun, Mahathera. Venerable Master Hsing Yun passed away February 5th, 2023 at the age of 97, very ripe old age. Venerable Master Hsing Yun had done many great work. I cannot imagine, I cannot put in my words how great he was in his time. He came from China when he was young, maybe in his 20s. He just became a bhikkhu, and then he came over from China to Taiwan. At the time when I was 12 years old, he went to the temple with his mother, and somehow his mother gave him for ordination. At the time of the ordination, his master, he must be very cute. As a young boy, as a young Chinese boy, he must be very cute. He told us that when they actually give him the burn when he was ordained, actually they put the burn on the head. If you are a lay person, they give the burn on your arms. But if you are monastic, they give the burn on your head. And the master must have thought that because he was a good looking boy also, and maybe the master must have sensed that he would become a great teacher. Instead of giving him a straight line of 3 dots, he gave him straight line of 3 dots, but 4 lines. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So on his skull there were 12 burns. The Chinese call Ran Xiang. He told the story himself, and he said, and the master thought that the candles, not the candles, the incense may not burn well. He also blew it, blew the wind so that the incense would really burn properly. Imagine that he took 12 burns on his skull as a sign of taking Bodhisattva's vows. Usually Bodhisattva's vow is given after your full ordination. When you have already received ordination as bhikkhu, then the last stage will be receiving the Bodhisattva's vows. So for him, he took 12 dots of incense on his skull. He told us the story when he was giving us the Bodhisattva's vow, so I remembered the story very well. Then when he came over to China, when he came over from China to mainland, when he came to mainland China, to Taiwan, I'm sorry, I get confused with my own words. In Taiwan, Buddhism was at a very low stage, People who were practicing Buddhism were full of superstitions, and upper class educated Taiwanese people will not say they are Buddhist, because to say Buddhist is a kind of lower status, and Buddhism was not properly known in this island. So the master had to, at the very beginning, it was very difficult to propagate Buddhism. I saw the picture of how he had to literally hold the lantern, and then he would beat the gong as he walked through the stage, making announcement that there will be Dharma talk on such and such day, and then people would gather. Slowly he built his way. He read a lot. he read a lot, even though he is not academic per se, but he read Buddhist Sutra a lot. And then he was transferring his knowledge of Buddhist Sutra together with his own practice to the lay people, to the larger lay community of Buddhists in Taiwan. We have to be grateful to him. With his influence, slowly Buddhism became known in a better way. And once when he started Fo Guang Shan in Kaohsiung, in the south, in the southern part of the main island, he focused very much on education. Asian Buddhist, whether you are in Korea, whether you are in Japan, whether you are in China, they emphasize very much on education. So he also emphasized very much on education. In Fo Guang Shan, he established first a school and then later on become university. So his monastics, people who entered Fo Guang Shan monastic, always have education. If you come with 12th grade, you enter the university, then you have to go on for BA level, then for master level within the university itself. And the setting was so beautiful. In Fo Guang Shan, the monks are on one side and the Bhikkhunis on the other side, and there is a bridge crossing between this side to the Bhikkhuni side, and there's a deep valley. You have to go through this door, So on the Bhikkhuni side, it is very well protected, so to say. So in his community, there's large community of Bhikkhunis. That we have to recognize this, because I think one of the successes that Fo Guang Shan success is very successful now is because they have larger community of Bhikkhunis. Imagine they have 1,300 monastic members in the temple. 1,000 of them were Bhikkhunis and 300 bhikkhus. And the master, once when Master Hsing Yun really had Fo Guang Shan well established, prosperous over to, he would send them to something like 37 countries. 37 countries in the world, and most of them occupied by Bhikkhunis. He has very successful Bhikkhuni lineage. I think that is part of the reason why he has always been supportive of the revival of the Bhikkhunis in Theravada Buddhism. He knew that in Theravada Buddhism now there was not yet Bhikkhuni lineage, and in Theravada Buddhism we struggle to revive the Bhikkhuni lineage. Why he was so grateful? Because he understands the history. This is true study. When you don't study, then you don't know your own history. In the history of Buddhism, China also did not have Bhikkhuni lineage, but the lineage of the Bhikkhunis, Chinese Bhikkhunis, started in the year 433, when the Chinese pilgrim Fa Hian was a Chinese pilgrim who traveled from China to India. Took him years, before he could reach India. And then he studied in India, long, like 10 years, more than 10 years. And then when he traveled back, he traveled on the Silk Route from China to India. But on his return, he went down to Sri Lanka. And then Sumatra. And then he traveled by ship on his return to China. So the information he got was there were Bhikkhunis in Sri Lanka. At that time when he returned to China, the Chinese women were looking for ordination, and they received ordination only from the monks, from the Bhikkhu Sangha. And they studied and they said, no, the Bhikkhuni ordination, you must also have the Bhikkhunis. So with the information from Venerable Fa Hian, that there were still Bhikkhunis in Sri Lanka. So the Chinese Bhikkhuni, with the help of the lay people, sent a message with this ship, traveling making trade between China and Sri Lanka. The ship is called Nandi. The ship owner went to Sri Lanka and invited the Bhikkhunis to come up to China to give ordination to the Chinese Bhikkhuni. So remember the year 433. That was the connecting link between Sri Lanka and China. The Sri Lankan Bhikkhunis, it was not one travel, they had to travel twice, I think, before they actually completed the chapter of Bhikkhunis to be able to give ordination to the Chinese. But in a temple called Forest Temple in Nanking, 300 women were ordained. The year was 433 AD. So the lineage that the Sri Lankan gave the Bhikkhuni lineage to the Chinese women, and this lineage of the Bhikkhunis continued up to present. So when you said, oh, the lineage of Bhikkhuni died out, I always ask you the next question, where? In China, never died out. It never died out. But something happened that I need to mention here. During one of the king, that particular Chinese king, he had much faith in this particular master, and this master belonged to Dharmagupta. So he literally changed all the other sects into Dharmagupta. You must belong to Dharmagupta sect, in spite of the fact that in the beginning there were many sects, many Buddhist sects, Theravada, this Mahasanghika, Mahasaska, many other sects. But because of this king, because of this Chinese king, sorry, I don't have the date, he made announcement that in the whole country, all the monastics should belong to Dharmagupta. That was how they changed to Dharmagupta. So whenever come back to our master Venerable Hsing Yun, when he realized that in Theravada countries in the present day, whether it is in Sri Lanka, whether it is in Thailand, in Burma, Laos, Cambodia, there is no Bhikkhuni in Theravada lineage yet. So he was helping. He was very concerned to be able to help the Theravada Bhikkhuni Sangha to get started. As early as 1988, he organized the very first international ordination for Bhikkhunis in Silai Temple. Silai is like a sister, like a branch, a Fo Guang Shan branch of temple in United States. I have to mention that Silai Temple was, fundraising. The person who actually did the fundraising, major person who was responsible for the fundraising of Silai Temple was a Bhikkhuni from Taiwan. She was based there. This is not mentioned elsewhere, but we need to recognize her. Silai Temple was like, they said, it was like, the plan of the temple was like the palace, was just like the hidden palace. No, how to say? Hidden palace, yes. They spent $25 million on the building of Silai Temple at the very first stage. And that was the first international ordination of Bhikkhunis was held there. So we have to pay respect, of course, both Venerable Master Hsing Yun, who actually was the one who is behind the idea of helping the revival of the Theravada Bhikkhunis. During that time, many women from different traditions, Vietnamese, even from Thailand, Nepal, and Sri Lanka, went to receive full ordination. But somehow, when they returned to their country, whether it is Thailand, whether it is Nepal, whether it is Sri Lanka, they could not start it. They could not get the Sangha started. The two candidates from Thailand, after they returned to Thailand, they were not interested in building a Sangha. So the Bhikkhuni Sangha did not get started. In Nepal, once when there were Sangha members, there were 4 or 5 of them. If they return to Nepal and if they wear the proper robe, they would be able to continue the Bhikkhuni Sangha there. But once when they return to wear the pink robe that they got from their lower ordination from Burma. So there was no sign of Bhikkhuni. Vinaya sign of Bhikkhuni is the robe. We have to pay respect to this kasawa as a sign of the monastics. So they did not wear the robe. In spite of the fact that in Nepal, the Theravada monks, they have only 300 Theravada monks. But still, the newly ordained Bhikkhunis, with respect to the Bhikkhus were against the ordination of women. So the newly ordained Bhikkhunis did not change the robe to the Bhikkhunis robe. In Sri Lanka, they actually 11 of them went for ordination in Silai temple, but only 5 of them actually received ordination. And upon the return to Sri Lanka, they did not stay together as a Sangha. So 1988, the ordination that Venerable Master Hsing Yun helped to sponsor, to support all these people, sending tickets to them. They literally could travel to United States on these free tickets. Could not get started. So they did not give up. He set up a team of bhikkhus and bhikkhunis to study further about how to help the Theravada tradition revive the Bhikkhuni ordination. Again in 1997, they organized yet another monastic conference inviting scholars, Buddhist scholars from different countries, more than 10 countries, both West and East. I was invited as a layperson. I was invited as a Vinaya scholar. And in that conference, we met in Fo Guang Shan to draft a letter and sign the letter inviting Venerable Master Hsing Yun to consider giving another ordination, to consider giving yet another ordination for the Bhikkhunis. So that was how it actually happened. 1998, we have to give underline this very important date. There was organization of this ordination by Venerable Master Hsing Yun himself in Bodh Gaya. This time he himself went, and it was so happened that they also invited me again as a Buddhist scholar. I flew from Calcutta. I flew from Calcutta to Bodh Gaya on the same flight with the master. And that was the time when there was more than something like 148 women were ordained as bhikkhunis. And among them, there were 20 candidates from Sri Lanka. This time Sri Lanka was better prepared than any other countries, because the senior bhikkhus, Mahanayaka and senior bhikkhus of Sri Lanka, they were involved from the beginning in selecting the candidates. They chose kind of cream of the crop, the best cream of the crop from Sri Lanka. The registration form came from Dasasila Mata in the whole island. In Sri Lanka they have these nuns who take 10 precepts, and they wear yellow color already, but not the jivara. They didn't wear the jivara, but they wear yellow robe. Some of them had been this Dasasila Mata for 30 years, 40 years, So in the whole country, they have something like 2,500. So the senior monks sifted the best of the registration. 20 of them were selected, and they were the ones who were sent to receive full ordination from Bodh Gaya. But still, the ordination in Bodh Gaya was given by Bhikkhunis and Bhikkhus from Dharmakutta, from the Chinese lineage, which they follow Dharmakutta Vinaya. After full ordination, Upasampada already finished. The senior monks who were invited, who were there from the beginning, they thought about these 20 candidates. After full ordination, still they have received ordination in Dharmakutta Vinaya lineage, not Theravada. So finally they agreed among themselves. They must have discussed a lot, So among 10 of them, 10 senior members, I have to mention, one is a Venerable Gunaratana Phante from Virginia. He's Venerable Dr. Gunaratana from Virginia. He's still alive and he is already in his 90s. Very, very strong, thin monk, very strong in his old age. He was still active. And Venerable Sisumankalo. Venerable Sisumankalo, at that time he was not yet Mahanayaka. But later on in the year 2005, then he became Mahanayaka. He was there. Venerable Dhammaloka was there. And there was all together, all 10 of them. I have their names mentioned in our newsletter. They considered and they came upon agreement that they should arrange for yet another ordination, and this time it is Theravada. So the 10 senior monks, together with the newly ordained Bhikkhunis, Sri Lankan Bhikkhunis, travel from Bodh Gaya to Sarnath. Why Sarnath? Because in Sarnath they have the Sima, very important, that you must be ordained for Theravada, you must be ordained within the Sima, which is consecrated according to Theravada tradition. Yes? So that was how it was done. So when we said 1998, we have to say that Theravada Bhikkhuni ordination started with the latter one, that is with 1998, the one in Sarnath, which was confirmed by 10 senior Theravada Bhikkhus of Sri Lanka. This was how it got started. But all that started with the idea or supportive idea of Venerable Master Hsing Yun way back 1988, then 1997, then the actual ordination in 1998. So throughout his lifetime, his mission was to help strengthen the fourfold Buddhist communities, and particularly the Bhikkhunis, So among the Bhikkhunis in Taiwan, in this small island, the Bhikkhunis are so strong. And when you look around, when you come to Taiwan, that is the best place to look for some model. No? You look for model. No? In education, they are deans of the department, faculty members, rector of the university. You look in the publishing house, the publisher is Bhikkhunis. You look in different fields in this school, you have the master as a Bhikkhunis. So if you really look for social engagement for the Bhikkhunis, the role of Bhikkhunis in social engagement, the best country is Taiwan. And that we have to say, all started with the most venerable Master Hsing Yun, who had such far-sightedness, to see to the prosperity of Buddhism. And he was very well balanced in his understanding of the genders. He supported both the bhikkhus as well as the bhikkhunis. So we as bhikkhunis in Theravada Buddhism, we have to be very grateful to Most Venerable Master Hsing Yun for having helped us to bring about this possibility of establishing the Theravada Bhikkhuni in the present day. And now with my ordination, I have completed 20 years as the most senior Theravada Bhikkhuni in my country. My lineage also came through the assistance of Venerable Master Hsing Yun, So all of us have to be very grateful to him, the Theravada Bhikkhunis, as well as, of course, Bhikkhunis in Fo Guang Shan itself. You realize that you have such great master. You have such great master. We now call him grandfather, Venerable Grandfather. Yes, to have this man, his life is like a legend. To make a statement that how much can one person did in his lifetime to help strengthen the corner of Buddhism. He was like a cornerstone of the new era to establish Buddhism in the East. So today I, together with my Bhikkhuni Sangha here, we bow and pay respect to the most venerable Master Hsing Yun, our master. We are very proud of you as the son of the Buddha. Very proud of you as our brother Bhikkhu, who actually paved the way for us, the Bhikkhunis in Theravada Buddhism, to be able to emerge from darkness, many centuries of darkness. Thank you so much, Venerable Grandfather, Most Venerable Master Hsing Yun.